Hi, I'm Ursula Sadiq, Product Manager with Autodesk Plant Solutions. If you're an administrator and you're about to set up your first project with AutoCAD Plant 3D, this video is for you. If you're evaluating AutoCAD Plant 3D, I suggest viewing the 2 introductory videos before this one, as they will prepare you to start drawing using the default project. In this video, we'll quickly review the project manager in creating a new project. Then we'll open up the sample project and take a look at the project setup window. I'll show you how you can customize various project settings, including a new data manager view. Finally, in Windows Explorer, we'll take a look at the folders and files that are created with each new project and talk about what they contain. The starting point for managing projects is, of course, the project manager. In the introductory video, I talked about how AutoCAD Plant 3D organizes drawings into projects and how the project controls the pipe specs available, allows piping connections to cross drawings, and allows project-wide data viewing, exporting, and importing. The project also controls the annotation styles available, the data fields for each component type, customizations, the organization of objects in Data Manager, and so on. You can create a new project by clicking the Project Manager drop-down arrow on the ribbon and choosing New Project. However, this time, we will choose to open the sample project. We select Open Project and pick the Project XML for the sample project. First, we'll click on the Plant 3D Drawing node and in the Piping folder and open one of our existing drawings. Double-clicking the file name will open the model in the AutoCAD window. Now let's take a look at Project Setup. We'll select Project Setup from the Project Manager dropdown in the ribbon. Project Setup is shown with an expandable tree on the left-hand side with various project setup options. If you're familiar with AutoCAD P&ID, the project setup and other project features will be familiar. We're using the same project manager and project setup structure for both P&ID and Plant 3D. Now let's look at Data Manager configuration. You can set up any number of specialized Data Manager views of your data. We'll create a new Data Manager view by status. The status-oriented view lets us see which piping components are new, which are already existing, and which are set for demolition. I press the Create View button and give my view a name, in this case, Piping Components by Status. And then I select the scope of this view. In my case, this will be project data, as opposed to focusing on data from only a single drawing. And then I'll press the New Level button in order to define the grouping for this view. In the Select Class Property dialog box, I'll pick Pipe Run Components on the left and select the property Status on the right. I have in essence created a tree hierarchy with piping components at the top node and status subcategories below. I'll click OK to close Project Setup. Now let's look at the new view in the Data Manager. In the ribbon, I'll click Data Manager to open the dialog. In the Data Manager, I'll click the drop-down list to find the view and select it. I've moved the status column to the left for ease of viewing. As you can see, the project data is now organized by status: demolition, existing, and new. Now I'll close the Data Manager and return to Project Setup to look at some of the other settings that you can customize. Next, we'll take a look at layer and color settings. When starting a new project, you can also customize the layers and colors you want for piping components, either by changing the default or setting up a new scheme. You can set the layer for piping components by line number, service, or other properties. And, as you can see, you can set the color by size, status, or by shop field. If I click the Connections node, you can see that there are many settings. I won't describe all of them, but the settings at the bottom of the page are worth reviewing. You can set the minimum pipe length, whether or not to use weld gaps, the size of the weld dots, and the rounding for wafer bolts. Now let's take a look at the Class Definitions section. I'll expand the node. Here you can add new fields to components. If I click on the PD3 line group, you can see that it has a line number tag, which is formatted to have a single field by default. If you're setting up a new project, you might want to customize this format so it's made up of several fields. You can simply click the tag format and click Modify and add more fields. If you want to adjust the annotation for piping components, go to the Pipe Run component node and add or modify annotations. These would be the annotations you use in the orthographic drawings. Now that you've seen some of the many settings that you can adjust, I'll show you the directories and files that are created when you create a project. The Orthos directory is a default location for orthographic drawing. The PNID DWG directory contains PNIDs, and the Plant 3D models contain, you guessed it, 3D models. The spec sheet directory contains all piping specs for the project. When you create a project, all the specs from the AutoCAD Plant 3D 2010 directory under Program Files are copied here. This directory controls the specs available for the project, and you should replace them with specs that you create according to your project requirements. There are also a number of other configuration files found under the base project directory. As you can see, Plant 3D is quite configurable. To recap, in this video, we looked at project setups with as many settings that you can modify, setting up a customized view of your data for the data manager, and many of the directories and files associated with a project. Although we couldn't cover all possible settings and files, I hope you now have enough information to begin setting up and managing your first Plant 3D project. Thank you for watching.